Welcome to part 2 of the Stage Analysis Members Weekend video. It's Monday the 5th of September, and on tonight's video I'm going to go through the watchlist stocks from the weekend watchlist and Thursday's post as well, starting off with Thursday's post, watchlist stocks, talk through what's been happening with those. So there was a big theme on Thursday with the biotech stocks starting to show up again in the watchlist scans. They've obviously been fairly consistent throughout the last few months, but there was another proliferation of them on Thursday. So I highlighted a few. I just wanted to go through those, starting with the XBI itself, which is one of the major ETFs that covers the group. You've got the IBB as well. So this at the moment, just looking at the weekly chart of this first to start with, still moving in potentially in stage one at the moment. It's now below the 10-week moving average here, underneath the 50-day and above the 30-week moving average. So it's pulled back in a bit. The relative strength line continues to improve up towards the zero line, which is still declining at the moment, potentially starting to flatten out a little bit, but it's dipped down once again as this has started to pull back over the last 3 weeks, although the pullback has been relatively weaker than what we've seen in the market as a whole. So as I've talked about before, we've had this change of behavior since these recent swings here. So this move here has been a much broader move that we've had since the stage 4 decline in the XBI started back in late 2021. So this is a move potentially into early stage 1, and now we're in the secondary test phase of it. We've got if we mark it as before, we've got selling climax in here, prominently support, selling climax, automatic rally, and now we're potentially into the secondary test. So how deep the secondary test goes and whether we end up moving back into stage 4 obviously is an unknown at this point. We're still just obviously moving through the testing phase here, potentially in phase A of the stage 1 range. So we'll see how this develops. We look at the daily chart here. You can see that as it's marked, the stage 1's been developing, is attempting to hold around the 50-day moving average. Friday's price action wasn't great, low, big opened high and closed low on the day, back below the 50-day, but not by much there. It didn't break any levels as such. It wasn't an engulfing candle and didn't make any lower lows on previously what happened in the week. So still just in the pullback range within stage 1 at the moment. If we have a look at some of the individual stocks from the group that were highlighted on Thursday, so we've got ACRS, for example. Here, this has come up multiple times. It's in an area of support and resistance where it's been bouncing around in the upper part of the range. You can see a little bit of a volatility contraction going on with this one. It's been gradually winding itself up towards the top of the range here. Volume's consistently been fairly light. So you can see it's definitely had a little bit of a change of behavior as it's developed. You can see on the weekly chart, this one, the level in order to move out to stage 2. So we need to see a strong move up with some strong relative volume. This bar distorts it a bit here. If we go to, where's my chart? Go to this, and we can have a look at the trading view chart with the SATA score on that. So what was my chart? We're looking at ACRS. Score on that one. So at the moment, this is, you can see, 1, 2, 3 off of that and the 4. So it's on a 6 at the moment as it consolidates in stage 1. So potential for this one to move out. It did move up to a 9 here. Potentially already with that 9 score there and the break above, potentially could already argue it might tentatively be in early stage 2. But from a actual daily and daily chart perspective, we go back to this. You can see it still hasn't really broken out of this range. So often the first swing high above the 200-day moving average will mark the top of the stage 1 range. So this move in here tentatively, potentially attempted to move it out into stage 2, but you can see the reaction was strong. It was rejected. And so it broadens out that stage 1 base. And so the top of the stage 1 range at the moment is around this 18.5, 18.6 sort of level in there. So we're looking for a strong move above 19 in order for it to move out into stage 2 convincingly. Another one from the group, which came up on I did highlight this the other day. I think I covered this in the other video, as that this was a stage 2 breakout, a very early one, but on some heavy volume. So AGIO. Look on the weekly chart here. You can see this is a very early attempt to move out into stage 2. on more than 2 times the average weekly volume, but relative strength is only just breaking above the zero line. So that one's also on watch there. You've got ALNY. So we can see this significant bar that happened here. We had a stage 2 gap up breakout, and then the following day we had this significant engulfing bar. So decent volume on both of those days as it moved up. So we're now within that significant bar range at the moment. So still, even though it's below old highs here and starting to pull back into the range, so there is potential this could form as an up thrust. It is pulling back into the range again, but it did have this huge gap up move, so it's still within its range in terms of this significant bar here. So we'll see how that develops. But another one that's obviously interesting in the group, if we look at it from a weekly perspective again, you can see that had a huge bar. Go down, see that it's just pulled back under now. So as I said, potential forming an up thrust. It could still come back in again. There is obviously old support further back down around the 180 level there. So if it does come back in, you've got the rising 10-week moving average and old support resistance in there to potentially hold that. APLS, another one from the Biotech group here. So attempting to recover, it moved out into stage 2 briefly, but pulled back in quite deeply. It did come back underneath in the backup range here, so potentially moving back out again. So as always, we look out onto the weekly chart for this one. You can see it's a little bit more of a messy chart, not my favorite by any means. That huge bar it had back here in 2021 obviously destroyed the chart for a while. It's been grinding its way back up, but it's a little bit sloppy, so definitely not my favorite of the Biotechs by a long way, that one. But it is attempting to move back out into this stage 2 range here. AXSM, this one's a bit of a better looking chart. You can see the structure that's been developing down here, that it's broken out of into early stage 2. So it did have this was on Thursday. It had an inside day on Thursday, and then obviously moved a tiny bit higher on Friday. Another tight day. Volume continues to diminish. Relative strength remains strong above the rising zero line here. So again, to the weekly chart, you can see this one's moved out into early stage 2 and consolidating, but it has got a lot of overhead resistance zone that is moving into that one, like a lot of the biotechs, to be fair. CRBU, this one pulled back underneath the 200-day on Friday. It was looking a little bit better on Thursday, but didn't. With the market weakness on Friday, pulled back in again, but still holding that 21-day at the moment. A little bit more of a rounding bottom here and around that 200-day. So highlighting this one as it's quite a young stock. You can see the IPO low back here that's moving into. We've got a little bit some levels down here that it's starting to come into. So potentially it's developing in early stage 1 here. This is your change of behavior. So potential start of a stage 1 base developing in here. You've got your obviously preliminary supply, and then buying, selling climax and automatic rally in here. So same as the market, we're on a testing phase at the moment on this one. So it depends how this develops versus these moving averages, whether it starts to pull back below them or not and needs to broaden out. But similar to what's going on in the ETF itself, it's had a strong move since June, and it's fairly tight on the pullback so far, and that 50 days starting to rise up towards it again.